this video, I will be providing a walkthrough about virtual tables. Usually when you move over to Dataverse, you've got data in the other sources that you've stored previously. Now, you're going to want to take that data and move into Dataverse so you can use it in your apps and flows and other components. So, let's walk through how to use a virtual table to do this. Migrating. The data means that any existing clients or service or apps or whatever that you have using that data would need to be modified to point to Dataverse. You'd also need to invest time into the actual data migration, which can be huge, depending on how much data you have, and you may even need to pay somebody to help you out with that. Duplicating the data so it's in both places causes other headaches. So, how do you make sure that your data's in sync? You might need to implement other Power Platform functions or use third-party tools to help you ensure the data stays accurate. That can result in additional costs, plus you're using up storage in interspaces, so that's not so great. We've got another option for you though: virtual tables. By creating virtual table, Dataverse will be able to provide full data management for supported data types, as if the data was stored inside of Dataverse. Dataverse connects your data source and then it retrieves and displays your data. So, you can add new rows to your sources, update your content and delete data as well. You can use that data in your apps, flows, and more, plus you can use the security roles in Dataverse to manage the access of the contents of the table by assigning those roles to virtual tables themselves. You're not really going to be using any noticeable storage when you're using a virtual tables, because it's all using metadata to point to the actual data source when the data is stored. So, there's going to be a little bit of metadata stored, but no actual content is stored in Dataverse. So, it doesn't eat up any of your storage. Also, because the content is retrieved and processed at each individual call, no data is cached locally, so it's more secure. Virtual tables are created using connection providers which tell Dataverse how to communicate with data sources. Virtual connectors providers are no code and allow you create your table in just a couple PF minutes. So, it's fantastic and fast, but it is limited to a certain selection of the data sources. Custom data providers are created manually and you use that basically any other data sources that doesn't have a virtual connector provider. This requires more steps and has some basic coding requirements as well, but it has more flexibility in what kind of data you can pull over. You can also create virtual table using OData APIs if you don't need to have full access to a specific data source. For example, you might need to get specific data from a source and use that as part of app, but you don't need to have full access to everything that's stored inside that data source. OData APIs are really great for that. You'll need the same level of code experience as you do for a custom data provider. You just might need to do less code. In this set of scenarios, we're focusing on using virtual connectors providers to be able to build virtual tables and access your data within Dataverse.